Let's go. Today I'm talking about the 1998 movie H20, Halloween 20 years later. As always, this review is going to be spoiler free, so if you like what you see, feel free to subscribe to this channel and like the video. No, this is not a documentary or a TV reunion the way the title might lead you to expect. This is actually a feature film that picks up 20 years after Halloween, or more accurately after Halloween 2, since those are the two that are included in this timeline. After the complete disaster that was Halloween 6, the creators decided it was time to reboot, and thank God. This time, Jamie Lee Curtis is back reprising her role as Laurie Strode. When we start, the character has moved to California and changed her name, and she now lives a somewhat normal life as an overprotective single mother to her teenage son. But since it's Halloween, Michael Myers is back to terrorize her and her son. Right off the bat, you can tell the quality here is better than with the last few. With the cold open, we're at least back to Halloween 2 level quality. The cleverness, the suspense, the humor, the kills, they're not blowing me away, but they are working. Once we meet Laurie, I like what they do with her in this movie. It's much more subtle and believable than what they would go on to do in the 2018 movie. She's traumatized by the events of the first two movies and trying to live a normal life, but she's unable to overcome her fears. And I love the conflict that creates between her and her son. As someone who grew up with overprotective parents, I definitely relate to the son's point of view, but as someone who saw the first two movies, I also understand where Laurie's coming from. It's really good character stuff that mostly carries through the rest of the movie. But I gotta say, once we get into the second act, I am mostly enjoying what I'm seeing, but there are some points that start to drag for me. There's a lot of replaying beats from the original and a lot of generic slasher stuff. It's all done with a solid level of skill and class, but it just isn't all that original or all that impressive. Especially once we get to the section where the four teenagers are partying. They're not a total drag to follow. Like, one of them is Michelle Williams, who would later go on to be an Oscar-nominated actor who I really like. And they do bring in some self-aware scream sensibilities. But like with a lot of this movie, the scenes with the teens are very unoriginal, and they bring down the quality of the movie for me. When Michael shows up, he's back to his old ways, slowly stalking people and skulking around in the dark and popping out at just the right moment to kill people. He's used pretty well in this movie, so it's really a shame that they went with the look that they did, because it is just awful. As bad as the masks in the last few movies have been, I think this one is worse. It might actually be the worst mask in the entire series. The eye holes are way too big and the expression is way off. The whole thing looks like something out of a bad fan fiction, so it's a really big ding against Michael's scariness factor. The third act is relatively entertaining, complete with lots of stabbing and silliness and references to previous movies. This is becoming a mantra with this movie. I like it, it's fun, but it's far from impressive. One thing I do love, though, is how they dispatch Michael. It's the most final defeat we've seen in this franchise so far, and it brings everything to a satisfying conclusion, which makes the next movie all the more infuriating when they retcon it. But we'll get to that next week. H20 is a pretty decent sequel. It's a significant improvement over the last few, but at the end of the day, I could honestly take it or leave it. It's entertaining, but not very impressive. In my opinion, it's a 6 out of 10.